When the final breath leaves the body, a silence falls so heavy it feels like the entire universe is holding itself still, as if creation itself is watching what happens next. A moment that looked ordinary to everyone standing around suddenly becomes the most extraordinary moment of your existence, because the unseen world you heard about your entire life finally tears open. This is the moment everything you ever believed, doubted, hoped for, or ignored becomes real in ways no human language can fully describe. And before your soul is touched, before the angels even descend, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? Tell me in the comments, and make sure you subscribe, because what you're about to hear is a journey every one of us will experience. The soul hovers between two worlds, clinging to the body that carried it for decades, yet being pulled by forces it cannot resist. People around you may cry, whisper, call your name, but their voices fade like echoes from another universe, because your ears are no longer listening to the living. Instead, you hear something else, something approaching with purpose, with certainty, with a mission that has been written since the moment you were born. Angels descend, not as gentle symbols of comfort or artworks from imagination, but as beings of a realm that never bends to human perception. For the righteous, they shine with a beauty and calm that the heart instantly recognizes, even if it has never seen anything like them before. For the wicked, their presence brings fear so deep it shakes the core of the soul itself, because the truth that was denied in life now stands undeniable. The angel of death does not rip or tear or wrench the soul violently from the believer. Instead, the soul slips out softly, like a drop of water leaving a leaf after rain. But for the one who lived in arrogance or rebellion, the soul resists, clinging desperately to the body, knowing exactly what awaits and wishing for even a single second more, yet knowing the time has absolutely ended. This first moment, the moment of separation, is the moment where a human truly sees angels, the unseen, and the reality of the hereafter without any barrier. You don't think, you simply understand, instantly, perfectly, and painfully or peacefully depending on the life you lived. As the soul leaves the body, everything becomes clear. The excuses, the distractions, the temptations, the intentions, everything aligns into a single truth. The believer feels relief, as if the weight of the entire world has finally been lifted. The disbeliever feels the crushing weight of regret. And as the living begin to wash the body, the soul has already begun traveling to a place no heartbeat can follow. The righteous soul is received by angels who carry fragrances sweeter than anything on earth. They call the soul by its best names, the names it earned through sincerity, goodness, faith, and patience, not its worldly titles or achievements. Meanwhile, the wicked soul is wrapped in a foul scent, a stench symbolic of the life it lived, the harm it caused, and the truth it rejected. No amount of status, wealth, or power can protect it, because in this world, every soul is stripped down to its essence. The soul begins to rise, but not freely, not without purpose. It ascends with angels guiding it, carrying it upward toward the gates of the heavens. At every gate, the angels guarding that realm question, "Who is this soul?" And for the believer, the gates open with honor, because the soul is welcomed. The heavens greet it with joy, recognizing the faith it carried during its lifetime. But the soul that rejected God, mocked truth, or lived without accountability, finds the gates slammed shut, the heavens refuse entry. There is no debate, no negotiation, no chance to argue. The disobedient soul is thrown back down toward the earth, descending rapidly, returning to the very grave it tried to escape. This fall is not just a punishment. It is a final reminder that a life without purpose cannot outrun its consequences. Meanwhile, the righteous soul descends gently, guided, accompanied, honored, returning to the grave not with fear, but with the peace of someone who knows they are being taken care of. The world above moves on. Family cries, people gather, funeral preparations begin, but the soul is focused only on what comes next. The body is placed in the grave, but what most people don't know is that the soul is already there, observing, feeling, and experiencing the unseen in ways the living will never comprehend until their own moment arrives. The footsteps of loved ones walking away echo in the soul's awareness, fading into silence as earthly life completely dissolves behind it. This is when the grave begins to transform, when the unseen becomes the only reality, when the soul faces the first night of the next world, a night no human can escape, a night that begins the true journey of the hereafter. As the soul begins its ascent through the unseen realms, it realizes that the journey ahead is unlike anything it imagined during its lifetime. The angels carrying it do not rush, nor do they delay. They rise with purpose, passing through layers of existence that the human mind could never grasp while alive. Every level of the heavens is guarded, structured, organized with precision, and as they approach each gate, the angels stationed there call out, not in suspicion, but in recognition. Who is this soul brought before us? For the believer, the response comes with honor. The angels carrying the soul use the best names it was ever known by, the names associated with sincerity, charity, patience, prayer, and faith. And when these names echo through the heavenly realm, the gates open effortlessly, welcoming the soul as though it has returned home after a long, difficult journey on earth. Every moment of hardship the soul endured, every sacrifice, every act done in secret for God's sake now glows around it like a crown. It feels uplifted, embraced, understood in a way it never felt during its earthly life. But for the soul that lived ignoring truth, rejecting guidance, or choosing arrogance over humility, this ascent becomes a nightmare unfolding one level at a time. When the angels carrying this soul answer the guardians of the gates, the names they present are not noble. They are names associated with deceit, harm, corruption, and denial. The gates do not open. The heavens refuse to welcome it. The rejection is immediate and absolute. That soul is cast down, thrown back through the layers it hoped would lift it, falling rapidly toward the earth with a force that pierces it with dread. There is no comfort, no gentleness, only a growing awareness that consequences are no longer theoretical. They are unfolding right now. For the righteous soul, however, this moment is different. It is shown its place in paradise, a preview of what awaits after the day of resurrection. It inhales fragrances that feel like mercy itself, hears greetings that ease every fear, and senses a joy it never knew in life. Even though it will return to the grave for questioning, it does so with confidence, knowing that what lies ahead is reward, not punishment. And so the soul descends again, this time gently, like a feather lowering through still air. The reunion between soul and body in the grave is unlike anything imaginable in the physical world. It is not the physical body rising, nor the soul fully merging as it did in life, but a connection that allows the soul to experience what happens next. The grave does not remain the quiet, motionless space the living see. As soon as the last person walks away, as their footsteps fade into silence, the unseen world activates with intense clarity. The grave becomes either a place of peace or a place of terror. And the first sign of this transformation is the arrival of two beings unlike anything encountered on earth. The angels of questioning, Munkar and Nakir, arrive with an authority that penetrates the soul's very core. Their presence is overwhelming, not in cruelty, but in sheer seriousness, because this is not a casual conversation. They ask 3 questions, questions every Muslim has heard countless times. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your prophet? But the answers cannot be memorized. They cannot be recited mechanically. They rise only from the truth of one's life, from the habits, intentions, beliefs, and actions that shaped who you really were when no one else was watching. For the believer, the answers flow naturally, as effortlessly as light emerging from a lamp. The grave expands with comfort, with light, with space so wide it feels like a garden of the next world. A window opens toward paradise, allowing the soul to feel its breeze, smell its beauty, and rest in tranquility. For the soul that denied God or lived heedless, the questions become an agony. The answers do not come. The tongue cannot speak truth it never lived. The grave tightens until the ribs crush against each other. The darkness becomes suffocating. A window opens not toward paradise, but toward hell, allowing the soul to feel the heat and smell what awaits if it does not receive God's mercy. This is not yet the final punishment, but a preview, a warning, a reflection of what the soul chose in its earthly life. The first night in the grave becomes the most defining night the soul has ever experienced. There is no turning back, no second chance, no returning to warn loved ones. The world the soul once knew, the people, the ambitions, the struggles, the distractions, has vanished behind it forever. And as the soul settles into its new state, it finally understands that this life, the brief flicker of time on earth, was only the beginning of something far greater, far more real, and far more permanent than anything that came before. The moment the questioning ends, the soul enters the realm known as Barzakh, a world suspended between life and the day of resurrection. Yet it is far more real, far more vivid than the world it left behind. It is a place where masks fall away, where intentions become visible realities, and where every deed, good or bad, takes shape around the soul. Time here doesn't behave the way it does on earth. Minutes don't feel like minutes, and days don't pass like days. Some souls experience Barzakh as a peaceful breath, a soft drifting of existence, while others feel every moment stretching painfully, as though the very seconds weigh upon them. The righteous soul finds comfort, greeted by the form of its own good deeds, appearing as a companion with a beautiful face and soothing presence. Every prayer the person ever made, every silent act of charity, every struggle for the sake of God, every moment of patience, every temptation resisted, they all gather around the soul, forming a shield of tranquility that protects it from fear. The grave becomes spacious and filled with gentle light, almost as if earth and heaven are touching. In the distance, the soul sees a window to paradise, a glimpse of the reward it will eventually inherit. The fragrance that flows from it eases every worry, every regret, every memory of earthly pain. The soul relaxes, no longer anxious, no longer burdened by the weight of the world. It begins to understand that what mattered most in life were not the things it chased, but the things it did sincerely, quietly, and consistently. But in Barzakh, the sinful soul experiences the opposite. Instead of comfort, its own deeds rise against it. The lies told, the harm caused, the neglect of prayer, the arrogance, the denial of truth, all form into a presence that brings fear instead of comfort. The soul's surroundings reflect the life it lived. Darkness fills the grave, tightness presses against it, and the preview of hell looms through a window opened specifically for it. A window that makes the soul feel heat and dread, even though the final punishment has not yet begun. Time stretches endlessly for such a soul. What feels like hours may be moments, what feels like lifetimes may be seconds, and every passing instant becomes a reminder of what could have been if the person had chosen repentance, faith, or humility before death arrived. In this realm, excuses no longer exist, and self-deception dissolves. Only truth remains. While the soul settles into its new reality, something profound happens. It becomes aware of the living who remain behind. Islamic teachings describe that the soul hears the footsteps of its family walking away after burial, and that awareness lingers as the soul adjusts to its new world. The righteous soul feels a soft connection to the prayers being made for it, as if every dua sent from a loved one becomes a beam of light breaking through the darkness. The charity given on its behalf, the Quran recited, the forgiveness asked for it, each of these actions reaches the soul like gifts delivered directly to its resting place. This nourishment strengthens the soul's peace, increasing its comfort in the grave, reinforcing its hope, and reminding it that love continues even after death. The soul reflects on the relationships it built, the kindness it offered, the sincerity with which it lived. Even small acts that seemed insignificant during life now shine brightly, bringing relief that cannot be measured. For the sinful soul, however, the awareness of the living becomes a source of sorrow. It longs to return, not to enjoy life again, but to fix what it neglected, to apologize, to pray, to make amends, to seek God sincerely. But the door back to life is permanently closed. It receives no comfort from the living except through the prayers and good deeds they might do on its behalf, and even those only benefit the soul if they come from genuine love and righteousness. When the family weeps excessively or speaks hopelessly about the deceased, it brings no benefit, and sometimes even harm, because the soul is in need of mercy, not despair. The sinful soul watches as life continues without it, children growing, loved ones moving on, memories fading, and this realization weighs heavily, deepening the loneliness of Barzakh. As the hours pass, the righteous soul begins to rest in its new reality. It feels secure, anchored by the reassurance of the angels and the promise of what is to come. The grave no longer feels like confinement. It becomes a temporary home, a place of waiting that grows more beautiful with every righteous deed ever performed. It knows that the day of resurrection will eventually arrive, but until then it feels peace, as if it is gently sleeping under the watch of divine mercy. The soul's confidence grows, and its connection to the unseen becomes stronger than anything it ever felt in life. Meanwhile, the sinful soul becomes more aware of its isolation. It knows now with absolute certainty what it refused to acknowledge before. This world was a test, and it ignored the questions until the answers no longer mattered. The grave becomes a place of fear and longing. It sees a window of hell not as a distant warning, but as a glimpse of what awaits if mercy is not granted. Time stretches unbearably. Moments feel heavy and sharp. The soul cries out, but no sound escapes into the world of the living. It understands now that the real loss was not wealth, status, or opportunities. It was the loss of obedience, faith, humility, and sincere connection to God. And so, the soul remains in Barzakh, comforted or tormented, peaceful or restless, each moment shaped by the life it lived. And while the world above continues moving forward, celebrating births, mourning losses, chasing ambitions, and forgetting past generations, the souls in Barzakh wait, aware, conscious, and fully understanding that the life they once took for granted was the only chance they ever had to shape the eternity they now face. As the second day drifts into the third, the soul becomes more aware of its place in Barzakh, not as a temporary confusion, but as a new and undeniable reality. The righteous soul settles into a state of tranquility, absorbing the comfort surrounding it. The grave that once felt cold and unfamiliar now expands with a light that seems to breathe. The breeze from the window of paradise continues to soothe it, carrying scents that feel almost familiar, as if the soul somehow remembers them from a time before earthly life. It begins to understand that its entire existence was always moving toward this moment. Every hardship, every act of patience, every prayer whispered in the quiet of night. Those moments now rise around the soul like pillars of protection, surrounding it with a calm that feels deeper than sleep, yet more awake than consciousness itself. The fear of the unknown fades, replaced by a growing anticipation, a certainty that whatever comes next will be far greater than anything it experienced on earth. The soul reflects on the life it lived, not with regret but with clarity. It recognizes the purpose behind trials that once felt unfair. It remembers prayers made during moments of weakness, moments when it lifted its hands begging for guidance, forgiveness, or strength. Now those prayers stand beside it as companions, comforting it in the solitude of the grave. The righteous soul feels a joy that is impossible to describe, a joy that comes from knowing that every struggle, every sacrifice, every moment of choosing good over temptation mattered far more than it ever realized. It begins to feel gratitude for having believed, for having repented, for having cared about the state of its heart when no one else was watching. This gratitude transforms the grave into something peaceful, a sanctuary where the soul rests, waiting for the promise of resurrection as someone waits for a long-awaited reunion. But the rebellious soul experiences a very different settling. What begins on the third day is not calm, but a deepening awareness of isolation. The darkness in the grave grows heavier, not because of physical shadows, but because of the weight of deeds it carried with it. The window of hell remains open enough to let its heat and terror seep in, reminding the soul of what awaits if mercy is not granted. The soul settles into its own consequences, feeling every regret sharpen as time continues without relief. It realizes, too late, that the world it once chased with pride was an illusion, and the things it ignored were the things that truly mattered. The sinful soul wishes desperately for just one more moment of life, a single breath to repent, to ask for forgiveness, to change. But the door to earthly time is sealed. The soul settles not into peace, but into a long, heavy awareness that its future is shaped by the choices it refused to correct. The memories of sinful pleasures that once felt empowering now feel hollow. The arguments, the arrogance, the neglect of prayer, the lies, all of them rise around the soul like shadows that cannot be escaped. It becomes painfully clear that the greatest loss is not life itself, but the loss of a second chance. As the 72 hours reach their end, both souls, righteous and sinful, fully understand their own state. They are no longer shocked, no longer confused. They know who they are, what they earned, and what awaits. For the righteous, the wait becomes a peaceful anticipation. For the sinful, the wait becomes a heavy dread. But for both, the journey is far from over. When the first 3 days end, the soul enters a long stretch of waiting, a waiting that continues until the day of resurrection. The living world moves on. Generations pass, empires rise and fall, loved ones age, die, and join the realm of souls. But the souls themselves remain aware, resting, reflecting, and waiting for the trumpet that will signal the final awakening. This wait does not feel like ordinary time. Some souls experience it as a peaceful sleep, suspended in comfort. Others experience it as a torment that stretches endlessly. But all souls know that the true beginning has not yet arrived. The day of resurrection will be the moment when every soul, every ancestor, every stranger, every ruler, every child stands together on a single vast plain, facing God without distraction, without excuses, and without the illusions of worldly life. Until that moment, the souls remain in Barzakh, living a reality shaped entirely by the deeds they left behind. For the righteous soul, the thought of resurrection brings hope. It knows that its record is filled with sincerity and repentance, and even its mistakes were followed by seeking forgiveness. It waits for reunion with its body, with the believers, and with the reward that was promised. The anticipation is like waiting for a long-lost loved one, not with fear, but with joy. The soul's dreams in Barzakh are filled with peace, and every passing moment feels like a step closer to eternal happiness. Its good deeds continue to grow if it left behind charity, knowledge, kindness, or righteousness that benefits others, each one arriving like a gift that brightens its existence. For the sinful soul, however, the waiting is heavy. Every moment is filled with what-ifs and if-onlys. It wants desperately for the day to be far away, knowing that the reckoning will expose everything it hoped to hide. It watches its legacy on earth with pain, deeds that continue to harm others, sins that continue to influence people, wrongs that were never corrected. Each of these adds weight to the soul's suffering. The soul fears the moment the trumpet will sound, because it knows what awaits if mercy is not granted. Yet every soul, regardless of righteousness or sin, now understands one truth. Life was never the end. Life was the test, and death is the doorway through which every human being must walk. What lies beyond is shaped by the heart, the choices, the deeds, and the sincerity each person carried during their brief time on earth. And as the souls wait, some in peace, some in dread, the world they left behind continues its cycle, unaware that one day it too will fall silent, and every human will rise to face the reality that began the moment their soul left their body.